You're listening to the Just Japan podcast. Everything you want to know about Japan.
Well, hey there, folks, and welcome to episode number 158 of the Just Japan podcast, Hitchhiking in Japan. Hey guys, my name is Kevin O'Shea. I'm the host of the Just Japan podcast. I'm a Canadian who lives in Kobe, Japan, and each and every week I bring to you a different topic about Japan, a different aspect of life, different jobs, different hobbies, different things you can do, different things you can see, things you never imagined. That's right, the Just Japan podcast. We bring it to you. Wow, 158 episodes, folks. That's a long time we've been doing this. And this week we've got returning guest Sam Ramdani. Sam is a Canadian who was featured in episode number 152, talking about life in Kobe and the JET program. And Sam was a fellow Kobe PR ambassador, public relations ambassador for the city of Kobe. I was last year. Sam has continued to be one for another year, and that's really awesome. And I'm going to make it my mission to help promote Sam's new Twitter feed. It's not new, but he's using it more, and we'll talk about that more in the podcast. So yeah, that's it. This week, we're going to be talking all about hitchhiking in Japan. Oh my goodness. Have you guys ever thought about hitchhiking in Japan? Have you ever thought about a means of travel in Japan? Well, you might after this episode. It's cool stuff. I haven't done it, but I want to now. Of course, the Just Japan podcast is part of the Japan Podcast Network. That's right. Great podcasting content coming to you each and every week from a whole bunch of different podcasts. That's right. If you're into Japan, if you're into podcasts, go check out the Japan Podcast Network over at japanpodcastnetwork.com. japanpodcastnetwork.com. There's a bunch of great content over there. The ALT Insider Podcast, the Two Player Select Podcast, Disrupting Japan, the Just Japan Podcast. Lots of cool stuff. Go over there, like it, share the heck out of it. All right, folks? The Japan Podcast Network. Hey, we're a proud member. It's awesome. Now, of course, the Just Japan Podcast can be found on all major podcatchers. We're all over the place, folks. We're on the iTunes, the Stitcher, the SoundCloud, Libsyn, all over the place. Go check us out. Just do a Google search for Just Japan Podcast. And of course, the home of the Just Japan Podcast is over at justjapanstuff.com. Blogs, podcasts, and more over at justjapanstuff.com. Now, before we get into the interview portion of the podcast, I want to catch up on some news, get you guys, give some info, send some info your ways. Now, of course, a few episodes ago, I dropped the bomb. I also dropped it on YouTube about a month ago that myself and my family, we will be leaving Japan this summer 2017. We're moving to China. We're going to be moving to Beijing, China. We're going to be living there for a couple of years. It's a huge change. It's a massive change. It is kind of an unexpected change. Now, for those of you who have been following me for quite some time on the podcast, on YouTube, on Facebook and Twitter, I've made it very clear that although I love Japan, I think it's amazing. It's not really the place where I feel I'm going to kind of end my days. And that's simply just because I have certain skills, certain skills, a certain skill set, a resume, and it's not really being rewarded as much as it could be here in Japan. And over many years of teaching, and remember, folks, I am an elementary school teacher. I'm not working as an ESL teacher. I'm not an English teacher. I have a very different type of job. I'm a qualified elementary school teacher in Canada. That's what I do here in Japan at a private international school. So basically, after years of experience, lots of professional development, lots of workshops, lots of being a lifelong learner, all the stuff I do when it comes to like learning about ecology, environmentalism, environmental protection, teaching children about nature, teaching children about bugs, birds, conservation, which has become a true passion of mine in the past few years. Um, you know, these things have helped me build myself, my reputation, my resume as an educator to the point where, I threw out the fishing rod, so to speak, as far as jobs goes, and there were a lot of different schools in a lot of different countries who were really interested in me and offering really nice kind of incentives, extremely nice in some cases. And we decided as a family that it would be best, um, for many reasons, to make this move to China. It is, of course, there's always downsides to everything, and of course, there's a lot of people keep saying, "Oh, the environment," and that is a big factor. We've researched a lot. We're on top of that. I mean, hey guys, I spend almost every waking moment thinking about like environmental conservation and ecology. Believe me, I know all about what's going on there. And we're going to be well and ready with great air filters for our apartment that filter out PM 2.5, more than one, that's for sure. Good masks, and taking care of ourselves. But essentially, at the end of the day, and I posted a video on the Facebook page just a couple of days ago over at facebook.com/Japan stuff, saying that when you have a family and you are the breadwinner, you got to think of financial things. You got to be able to think of future retirement, of savings, education savings. And if you're not making money to be able to do that, you've got a problem. But if you're offered job positions that will give you the resources to do that and to help your family, you gotta go that way. You gotta think of the family first. And sometimes that involves moving to different places. But at the same time, my children are going to have an incredible education experience, being students at an amazing international school for a few years. Um, yeah, so it is going to be different. It will be extremely sad to leave Japan. Very sad, of course, but you guys got to remember that my wife is from Osaka, Yao City actually, originally, and then Osaka. But she's from the Kansai. My kids were both born here. We're always gonna have a foot in the door here. We're always gonna be visiting our family here, and the Just Japan podcast will continue and will thrive. It will thrive, even though I will be in China. I've spent a long time building this podcast and loving this podcast and loving the fact that I can connect with amazing people like you guys out there. So I know when you hear that I'm moving, there's a lot of fear that, oh no, the show's going to end. That is not the plan at all. Things have been going better and better, more swimmingly, one might say, each and every week with the Just Japan podcast. So there's no way that I plan on quitting. There might be, I'm going to probably bank a few weeks of interviews before I move to Beijing, and there might be a few. It's safe to assume there's probably gonna be a few weeks of no podcast when I do the initial move, as a moving culture shock, moving into an apartment, helping family get acquainted, me getting acquainted, blah 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 blah. But what I plan on doing is definitely getting a few great interviews in the can to bring with me. So I can put together a few weeks worth of episodes. And you guys got to remember out there, if you're not aware already, and I've made episodes in the past talking about how I produce this podcast, I do all of my interviews via Skype. Even people like Sam Ramdani in this week's episode, he lives in Kobe, just like I do. But it's still, with my life schedule, it's much easier for me to do interviews via Skype. So, hey, that's what I'm going to be doing. And it'll work well. All right, well, moving on along from there. Golden Week is finished. I'm back to work. I've been back to work this is going to drop on Friday, the 12th. I've been to work all week. Last week was Golden Week. I had 9 days in a row off. It was amazing. Great time with my family. Amazing time. A lot of time having picnics and parks, barbecues, enjoying a lot of awesomeness here in the Kansai region. I went to Osaka, did a lot of stuff here in Kobe. Also, we went to Akashi for a kind of annual tradition going to a friend's Golden Week barbecue, which was really awesome. My daughter turned 4 years old last week, which was also very cool. And we're getting ready for Spring Undokai, Spring Sports Day. That's right. My son is now Ichinensei. He'll be doing one term of first grade here in Japan at our local Japanese public school. My daughter also started kindergarten this year, so she's going to be doing one term at the same kindergarten, Yochien, that my son went to, before we head out of here. We leave Japan. And it's really amazing that my son is getting that experience. And luckily, fortunately, in Japan, traditionally, Undokai or Sports Day, they're held in the fall. And my son's kindergarten Sports Day was always held in the fall. But more and more elementary schools are deciding to do spring sports days, spring Undokais. And my son's elementary school is doing that very thing. So my son will be able to experience, sports day at a Japanese elementary school. And I'm really happy about that and very excited to see it and to participate and cheer him on. Sadly, my daughter won't have that luxury because, we'll be at our new school in our new international school when that goes on. But she's going to have amazing events at her new school, and so will my son. And they're going to absolutely love it when they move. That's the one resilient thing. It's not just the one wonderful thing about children. Many wonderful things about children, but children are resilient and they have fun wherever they go, and I'm going to do that too, and so will my wife, and it's going to be awesome. On kind of a sadder note, my daughter, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, my daughter's got some pretty bad peanut allergies. When she was born, she actually had dairy, egg, and wheat and peanut allergies. But she's outgrown everything except for the peanuts. But sadly, the peanut allergies have been getting worse and worse and worse. She's been rushed off to the hospital several times, unfortunately. And most recently, about a month ago, she was rushed to the hospital with a peanut allergy attack. There was some kind of sauce that she ate that had peanuts in it. So we bring her to one of the best allergy specialists in this part of Japan, and she was tested for peanuts yesterday, and it went bad. It was not a good scene. And her allergies is growing stronger and stronger. So we'll be getting some EpiPens. We're going to be getting some EpiPens. I've got training. I took a first aid course with my school, so I've got EpiPen training, and my wife will be getting EpiPen training through the hospital, and then we will be getting EpiPens for my daughter, and we will be extra super duper amazing vigilant when we go to China, because a lot of Chinese food is cooked using peanuts. Peanut oil is used a lot. So I think basically often when we head out into the town on the weekends, we're basically going to have to pack my daughter's lunch, make it at home and pack it with us, and bring any snacks that my daughter will need during the day will be in our backpacks. So to keep her safe, because that's a priority. You know, you're a parent, you got to keep those kids safe. That's your job, your number one ichiban job. Yeah. All right. So there you go. Some updates from the life of Kevin here in Japan. Yeah. All right, folks. This week's guest is returning guest Sam Ramdani. Sam is a jet, an English teacher living here in the city of Kobe, Japan, with the Japan Exchange for Teachers program. We talked about that in episode 152. There will be a link in the show notes at justjapanstuff.com for that. Yeah, he's a great guy. I met him through the Kobe PR Ambassadors program, where the city of Kobe had a bunch of English-speaking foreign volunteers help spread the awesomeness of Kobe out there to the world, and hopefully attract more amazing travelers from around the globe to come here to Japan. I had the honor of being a Kobe PR ambassador for a year, but because of the fact that I am leaving Japan partway through this year, I wasn't able to make the 1 year commitment to do it again. I'm a bit bummed about that, but hey, so be it. I love Kobe, and I'm always gonna have a special place for this city in my heart. Best place I've ever lived, absolutely. And yeah, so I'm getting sidetracked now. I'm going like, getting out of Kobe. But yeah, so Sam was, he said, hey man, I could come on the podcast again and talk about some pretty cool things. He's like, I hitchhiked around part of Japan, and I went, hey, that would be a great topic for a podcast. we've talked about a lot of different ways of traveling in Japan, but hitchhiking, that's cool. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight: hitchhiking in Japan with Sam Ramdani. So sit back down if you're standing up, and if you're sitting down already, remain seated and get a drink or get a snack or get some potato chips or whatever it is you do when you enjoy a podcast, or stay on that train, whatever it is you do. Sit back and enjoy the interview portion of episode 158, Hitchhiking in Japan. All right, Just Japan podcast listeners out there, welcome to episode number 158. And this week is a doozy. We're talking about hitchhiking here in Japan. And we have returning guest Sam Ramdani. Sam, welcome back. Yay! So for you guys out there who are regular listeners of the show, you'll know Sam was on a recent episode about life in Kobe and being a member of the JET program. And this week it's a very different topic about Japan. But before we jump into the topic itself, there's a lot of you out there who might not know who Sam is. Shame on you, shame on you. But if you don't, Sam, can you tell the podcast listeners a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what the heck you do here in Japan?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll try to do it pretty quick, but basically I am a Canadian. I'm from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. I studied Japanese university. I was really amazing at it. I won Japanese speech competition and then studied abroad in Japan. I went back to Vancouver, graduated, applied for the JET program, came over, boom, became a Kobe PR ambassador, which Kevin also was. And that's how I hooked up with Kevin and got into this whole crazy podcast whirlwind that we're experiencing right now.
Yes, a podcasting whirlwind with just money flying around everywhere and diamonds and champagne.
Oh, that's amazing.
It is. It's an incredible experience. Now, again, for those who may not know, in a nutshell, what is the JET program? This thing that you applied for and were accepted to.
Right. So the JET program is often confused with other ALTs. So, we're pretty much all ALTs, assistant language teachers, which means that we teach English in Japanese public schools with other Japanese teachers of English. But the thing that makes the JET program a little bit different is that all of the hiring is done through the consulates around the world. And so it's a little more official. The salary is a little bit higher. The benefits are a little bit better. And if you want to come to Japan, the JET program is the first place you should focus on and apply for. And if it doesn't work out there, then you can look into other dispatch companies or eikaiwas and things like that. But it's in my opinion, it's the best way to come to Japan after just graduating university without any other teaching credentials.
Yeah, I've definitely heard that from so many people over the years. So go check that out, folks. So, I mean, and that is a program that's run by the government of Japan. So it's, relatively...
It's good.
It's good. Okay, and you also mentioned that you're something called a PR ambassador. What the heck is that?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I feel like your listeners probably heard a little bit about the PR ambassador program.
I know, but and I know a lot of them have. But again, two reasons why I'm having you say this again. Number one, there are always people who jump in. This is their first episode, but also it's always good to pimp out the program a bit more and get more people on board.
Yeah, and I might be able to say it with a little more razzmatazz than you usually do. I'm not imposing, I'm not implying anything, but you say things fantastically too, Kevin. But let's see. The Kobe PR Ambassador Program is a program where this year 25 foreigners who live, work, and or study in Kobe will basically share their point of view of what Kobe is through social media. So you get a lot of people posting about flowers and a lot of people posting about mountains and other things that make Kobe great. Kobe is known obviously for fashion, for sweets, for Kobe beef. It's also known for having mountains and ocean in very close proximity to another. Me personally, if you end up checking out my social media, which I'm assuming Kevin will include in the links below.
I will.
But thank you for that. You'll probably see, mostly from me, more so like a kind of a grittier side of Kobe, or maybe like a more old school side of Kobe. Although there are moments where I just can't help myself and I post pictures of chocolate cake and stuff too. So it happens, you know.
Chocolate cake with a headpiece of flowers and all of that stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, hey, go check out. I'm gonna put a whole bunch of links in the show notes over at justjapanstuff.com to the
Mm.
JET program, the PR Ambassador program, and also, of course, all of Sam's contact details. But hey, today we're talking about hitchhiking, and I know that last year you threw your hat into the hitchhiking. I don't know what to say. Well, I mean, you didn't really throw your hat in anything. You went hitchhiking, and
Yeah.
this was not long after I think I'd met you. I think it was Golden Week of last year, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah, yeah.
almost exactly a year from today.
Yeah, yeah, because I remember we were both newly minted PR ambassadors, and I think it was maybe at our first kind of PR ambassador event, maybe the tour of the Maritime Museum or something along those lines, somewhere where you were telling us all about your adventure. And I really think this is kind of a an interesting time to throw this out there because maybe a lot of you guys out there listening who are fans of Japan YouTube stuff might know that. And his name is eluding me, but the guy from the Only in Japan YouTube channel, he makes awesome videos. I think he's professional. He's making a living doing it.
Mhm.
But he's just winding up a hitchhiking extravaganza through Japan. But yeah, so okay, tell me a little bit about. Well, actually, tell us a lot about your trip. Where the heck did you get the idea that you wanted to do some hitchhiking in Japan?
Yeah, so this goes a long way back. What first happened is I was really, really interested in a series called Thumbs Up by David Cho. And I really hope some of your listeners know what that is. But it's this guy that went hitchhiking around China. He's a Korean American. He's an artist. He's got a very interesting story of his own. He did a mural in the Facebook offices and was offered 60 grand cash or 60 grand worth of stock.
Oh, I've heard of this guy. I've heard of this guy.
Yeah,
I've heard him on interviewed on some podcasts before on Kevin Smith's Smodcast.
I
I think
wouldn't be
he
surprised.
was a
Yeah.
guest. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so he took the 60 grand worth of stock even though he was broke. And when Facebook made their initial public offering, his share of stock was worth over $200 million. So
Hmm.
he's been doing whatever since then. But the thing is, he kind of grew up quite poor, but kind of a vagabond. And so he would hitchhike places and he would ride the trains up and down the west coast of America. And so even after he became super rich, he made a couple of Vice documentaries doing things like that. And I think I'd seen a YouTube video unrelated to him, but I think I'd seen a YouTube video of somebody hitchhiking in Japan. And I thought, wow, that makes perfect sense because Japan is such a safe country. Japan is such a relatively small country, so it's easy to get to big cities in a relatively short amount of time. And yeah, like I just can't see me getting myself into really big trouble from hitchhiking. So I went online, I looked up hitchhiking in Japan, and I found some kind of a wiki, not
Okay.
Wikipedia, but some kind of an other wiki,
Yeah.
and it had great information. So I'm sure if your listeners just literally Google hitchhiking in Japan, they'll probably come across the same wiki and more or less the same information that I'll share with them today. But it was super beneficial and super informational for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So okay, so you get this idea in your head. Had you ever growing up in Canada, did you ever hitchhike in Canada?
No, I did hear stories because my grandparents are from kind of a countryside area, and I
Hmm.
did hear stories of them picking people up, and they kind of said, they're going back and forth from their small town and another small town nearby. They run this road, maybe a couple times a month, and so it's not a big deal for them if somebody's hitchhiking through to pick them up and take them an hour in one direction or something.
Yeah.
So, so for me, hitchhiking seemed like something not completely impure, as I think some people think of it as.
Yeah, no, I mean,
It's
I grew up in rural Canada, like rural Eastern Canada, and I grew up in a small town, and there was like great distances between all the different little villages and towns around us, and I can remember seeing hitchhikers on a regular basis,
Mhm.
and there were normally people that we knew, because I grew up in a very small town. It was like, oh, there's so and so, he's hitchhiking probably to here or there, And I can remember my dad stopping, from time to time and letting hitchhikers in the car. And they were normally people that we knew.
Oh,
Like where I grew up in this small area. And then even like when I got my driver's license and started driving, and I've never hitchhiked before, but I can remember on a few occasions, picking up people who were hitchhiking, but again, in our situation, they always tend to be people that I knew who they were, or like kind of had at least like an acquaintance or something.
right, right, right.
Yeah, so it was never like a complete stranger in my case.
Yeah, and there's all different kinds of levels of that stuff too, right? Like it could be somebody that you went to high school with, or it could be somebody that you've heard of through the grapevine, or it could be somebody you don't know whatsoever, but you like the cut of their jib and you're like, hey, hop on in, I'll drive you a ways. And I'd heard also, I think as most people have, some horror stories of you know, I don't want to get too dark here, but I'd heard some dark stuff about hitchhiking going bad.
Oh
And I
yeah,
also,
yeah. For
yeah,
on both ends, for the driver
absolutely,
and the hitchhiker.
absolutely. I also had a friend when I was working a part-time job as a college student who went hitchhiking through BC, and she was hitchhiking with a friend of hers who was also a woman,
Hmm.
and she was fine. Everything turned out okay, but she did say, like, I had to bring uh not spray paint. What's it called?
Pep,
Not bear
pep,
spray.
pepper spray.
Pepper spray with
Well,
me.
bear spray is pepper spray too. That'd work pretty damn well
Uh,
on a person.
yeah, I bet. Yeah, but just in case. And I thought, wow, like that's kind of scary. Like if that's really the precautions that you need to take. But to me, when I thought about doing it in Japan, I just thought, come on, pepper spray.
Japan
Yeah,
should be right.
not necessary. Not necessary is what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and also you're a pretty big guy. You're a bit larger than the typical Japanese guy. Out there. So I'm
Yeah.
sure you maybe have that on your side as well. But at the end of the day, I would when I think hitchhiking in Japan, number one, I don't think number one. I mean, definitely danger does not cross my mind.
Hmm,
Um,
hmm.
but at the same, what also doesn't cross my mind is I don't see Japanese people hitchhiking.
Mm.
Like
Well, you'd
it's
be
not
surprised.
really. No, mine. I guess
Yeah.
I guess when I think about it, I also don't travel by car very often.
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
I'm an urbanite who uses bicycle and public transportation.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So, I mean, if I can just jump right in there,
Yeah,
if you don't
tell us
mind,
about
but yeah,
tell us about your journey. So let us know like the planning that went into it, the time frame, where you started, and let us take us on the journey, Sam.
absolutely, my pleasure. So, as I said, I looked up this Wikipedia site or wiki site, and what their recommendation was to find either a service area or a rest area. Okay, these are stops along the highways in Japan. And a rest area will be similar to a service area, but much less stocked. Like they won't have as many restaurants or as many shops. So, really, what you want to find is your nearest service area. The
Okay.
problem is on the highways in Japan, like the highways in Japan are not the same as Canada. They're like encased in these big walls, so you can't just walk onto them and put your thumb up. As a matter of fact, most of these highways, it's illegal to walk on them. So you
Yeah.
you need to find a service area or rest area that is accessible by foot. Now, if you're in the Kansai region of Japan, the really, really good one to go to is Otsu, all right, which is in Shiga Prefecture, not too far from Kyoto.
Okay.
And if you get off probably around Otsu Station or maybe like Yamanashi Station, Yamashina Station. Don't quite remember. Somewhere, I mean, you Google Maps that stuff, right? You
Yeah.
can walk up a hill. There's like a little gate. You just push open the gate. It's always open. You walk up into the service area. There's all these cars and parking lots. You hold up your sign, and drivers are coming in to stop and take a little break, go eat some food, buy some omiyage, whatever. They see your sign, and you're definitely gonna get eyeballs, and eventually you're definitely gonna get a ride. Now,
Now
I did,
this sign is this in English?
oh, good question, good question. If your sign is in Japanese, you're gonna have a huge bump in attention from that. Absolutely. this website even mentions if you can kind of draw out the writing process of the kanji and have people see you writing the kanji, they'll feel a lot more comfortable because they'll be like, oh, not only does this foreigner speak Japanese most likely, but they know kanji and they are able to write kanji. And so that will make you a more attractive passenger because they're not just going to have this weirdo foreigner in the back of their car that they can't communicate at all with. They're going to have somebody that they can kind of say, "Hey, where are you from? What are you doing?" And this brings me to my next point: is I did not hitchhike alone.
Oh, okay.
I did not hitchhike alone. I hitchhiked in what I would say is probably the optimal or penoptimal tandem. I hitchhiked with a Japanese girl. Um,
Okay.
just a friend of mine. Don't get any weird ideas, okay?
No, no, don't
Friend
have
of
any.
mine,
Fair enough, yeah.
absolutely. But it's like if these drivers, put yourself in their shoes, right? They see a foreigner, and it's a guy and a big, scary-looking guy like myself. Especially, I had long hair at the time,
Yeah,
right?
how tall are you?
Uh, 187.
Okay, so that's our connection's clicking out. Did you say 6'3"?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
yes.
six
Yeah,
foot three, and you had, and at the time you had long hair.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So not
I'm scared. I'm as
you,
scary as it gets.
you're scared as it gets. You look like a pro wrestler compared to most Japanese people.
Exactly. Yeah, so they're not gonna be super stoked to give me a ride, but they'll do it. But if I have beside me a Japanese person, they're
Mm.
gonna be like, "Oh, sweet, no language barrier."
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then if it's a Japanese girl, even better because it's like someone that is potentially vulnerable trusts this person to not be a violent maniac. I mean, I mean, let's be real. Like the chances of the passenger being a violent maniac are very, very low.
yeah. Yes.
But you have to assume that like the people picking you up, they're just gonna be like, I don't want to deal with this at all,
Yeah.
you know. But I feel like having one foreigner and one Japanese person is the best combination because we saw a lot of Japanese dudes trying to get rides, and I felt really bad, but they couldn't get rides, and they were going the same direction as us, which means the same people that gave us rides looked at them
We
and
said
were
no
like,
way. Yeah, no way.
"Nah." So why did that happen? I'm just speculating here, but I think that the reason that happened is because what are they going to talk about on the ride? Why are what is the necessity for them to give these people a ride, right?
Yeah.
But if they see me, they go, "Oh," they have this kind of like uh I'm gonna have to use some Japanese here, but like okyakusan, like I'm an okyakusan, okyakusama. I'm a customer, kind of they say,
Hmm.
I'm a guest in the country,
Well,
and so
yeah,
they
yeah.
feel
That's it. You see, I mean, like, okay, I'm gonna jump over to, like, there's a TV show that's on Monday nights here on Channel 7, I think, called "Why Did You Come to Japan?"
Nanishini Nippon e.
Bingo. And
Yeah.
they go to the airports are in Japan, and they find foreigners and interview them, and then they often ask foreigners, "Can we follow you on your journey?" And
Mm.
I've seen several episodes where there have been people who do things like hitchhiking, or they're hiking, or they're riding across Japan on a bicycle or a motorcycle, and you get some incredible um, what's the term? Just hospitality from Japanese people to these, and I think a lot of it has to do with that they are foreigners, and they're like, wow, these people came to our country because they love our country, they enjoy our country, they want to experience our country, so we should show them the best of our country.
Absolutely. I feel like, because you show interest in their country, they want to give back to you and show you that their country really is a cool place to visit. But also, I think it's interesting, like this whole television show, Nanishini Nippon e,
Mm.
wouldn't exist if Japanese people weren't inherently fascinated in what the heck foreigners are doing in Japan. So like it also like it piques their curiosity when they see a foreigner trying to hitchhike. They're like, what is he doing here?
Yeah.
Let's find out, right? Let's find out.
Well, that whole TV show is based on that, right? And that's a really famous TV show here in
Hmm.
Japan. And
Hmm.
I think Japanese people are just like, why do so many people want to come here? Why are they interested? And and then I think that makes, obviously, Japanese people feel really good about themselves and about Japan and their culture, that so
Hmm.
many people are interested. So being a gaijin can work to your advantage in that way.
Yes. Now, I do think, as I said, like if you're just a solo gaijin male, a little intimidating.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're a solo gaijin girl, maybe you're a little intimidated, right?
Mm.
If you're a solo Japanese male, nothing really particularly interesting necessarily and possibly intimidating. And if you're a solo Japanese girl, a little intimidating and possibly nothing interesting about you. But that's why I think the combination of someone Japanese and someone foreign, one being a male and one being a female, that is that's a pretty decent combination, I think, because it makes you as a group both interesting and non-threatening.
Mm.
So I don't think I ever waited more than 20 minutes for a ride at one of these service stations. And if you're going with a different combination, that might not be the case, but it just so happened that the friend that I was traveling with spoke fluent Japanese and fluent English, and I speak fluent English and passable Japanese.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Cool. So you started in Otsu, this place?
Actually, I didn't start in Otsu because it's a bit of a ways. The rule of thumb that I saw on this wiki was don't try to grab rides from the lower streets. If there is a service area that's accessible by foot and it's within 2,000 yen train ride from where you are, just go there. If it's
Okay.
more than 2,000 yen, then you try to find some hitchhiking towards there. But if it's within 2,000 yen, just go there. And it just so happened that Akashi service area is close to where I lived at the time, and I have a commuter's pass to go to my school, which takes me it takes me the vast majority of the way to this service area.
Okay.
So I took a train from Maiko Station in Kobe
Mm-hmm.
to a little bit westward to Okubo Station in Akashi.
I know where that is. Yeah.
Yep, and that's actually my regular station that I get off at to go to work.
Oh,
But
actually, okay. One of my best friends in Japan lives about a 15-minute walk from there, and I'll be going to her house for a big family barbecue next weekend in
whoa,
Okubo. Yeah, yeah.
what? That's a trip. It's a pretty busy station, but I don't know a lot of people that go there regularly. Yeah,
No, I don't go there regularly, but my friend who I was a coworker with in Kobe for years lives in Okubo. Yeah.
not a bad place. It's a kind of a cool place.
Yeah.
Just
Small
yeah,
world.
yeah.
Small world. Okay, so
But yeah,
so so you went there and
yep. And then hop a bus, go up towards Akashi service area. From the bus stop, we had to walk a little bit, like maybe 15 minutes or so, and get into the service area. And the first thing we see is another Japanese dude trying to catch a ride somewhere. And to be perfectly honest, at this point, my friend and I did not have a perfectly clear idea of where we wanted to go. So
okay.
this is a really haphazard Golden Week. But we talked about a couple things. We talked about maybe going to Kurashiki in Okayama because I have a friend that's kind of from that area and it looks really cool. You can look it up online if you're a listener, and it's a cool place. But what we settled on was um, Toyama.
Okay.
So Toyama is both a prefecture and a city in Japan. And the reason that we wanted to go there, so it's just geographically, it's a little bit north on the middle part of Honshu.
Okay.
So kind of like if you know where Lake Biwa is, the biggest lake in Japan, it's just a little bit north of there. So north of Kyoto, north of Fukui, and a little bit northeast of Ishikawa. Google it; it's worth it if you're a listener.
Cool.
And the reason that we wanted to go there is shortly after I had first met this friend of mine, we went out for dinner and she introduced me to a food called hotaruika.
Ah.
So, translating into English, that's firefly squid.
Hmm.
They're squid that are about the size of your thumb, maybe, and they glow blue in the water. And I guess you can probably harvest them from a few areas in Japan, but in the Bay of Toyama, there are a ton of them. And actually, the Bay of Toyama was one of the first places that they discovered. I don't know if it was the giant squid or the colossal squid, one of those two. But like, there's tons of squid. There's tons of glowing
Yeah, the
creatures.
iridescent squid,
Yes,
which I believe actually, as I go through my a trip down memory lane, there was an episode of that Why Did You Come to Japan, where they followed a woman who went up to Toyama specifically for that. She'd come to
right.
Japan. She'd come to Japan just to see the iridescent squid.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, I understand why too, because if you look it up on Google, especially the spawning of the firefly squid, what
Mm.
happens is there's like one particular full moon around the time of Golden Week where all the squid come up to the bay to spawn.
Hmm.
And when they spawn, they're obviously making offspring and they're also dying. But their their bodies are glowing a brilliant bright blue and just making the whole bay light up in this awesome natural neon blue.
Yeah, and
And
I just Googled Firefly Squid Japan, guys, and there you go. Look at the images. Holy cow.
it's beautiful, right?
Amazing, amazing, incredible stuff. So,
And
yeah.
it's the kind of thing where you look at the pictures on Google and you're like, oh my heavens, I need to see that with my real eye, right?
Yeah.
So so that was our mission, and we decided, okay, let's make it Toyama. So we caught a ride from Akashi, and it was a couple that was wearing identical outfits. So like an orange shirt with camouflage cargo pants and camouflage Crocs, and they were driving a Subaru,
Okay.
and they I think this is kind of typical. They kind of like came up to us and gave us a little nod just to kind of feel us out. And we were like, oh, hey, you know. And then they walked into their thing. And on their way back, after leaving the service area, they stopped by us again and were like, hey, where are you guys going? And our sign said, Toyama Homen, Tochu demo ii, Kanada jin to Nihongo to Eigo demo OK, which means on the way to Toyama, any stop along the way is also okay. A Canadian and a Japanese, both Japanese and English are okay.
Ah.
Um, that's what our sign said. And, they chatted with us. Obviously, my friend spoke fluent Japanese, so she was mainly handling the conversation, but I could chime in here and there to show them like I'm not a complete moron. Like I speak a little bit of Japanese too.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, you know what? We're on our way to Nagoya, but we can take you to Otsu. And as I'd said, I'd heard that Otsu was like a super awesome hub. So I was like, that would be perfect. Please take us to Otsu. Now we probably departed from I probably left my place at like 1:30 p.m. on a Saturday.
Hmm.
So they probably picked us up around 2:30 or 3. The traffic was terrible. We didn't make it to Otsu until maybe 5:30, and we wanted to have experiences along the way. So Otsu, especially the southern part of Lake Biwa,
Hmm.
is famous for something called funazushi, which is
Okay.
the precursor to sushi. Um, um, Maybe people don't know this, but the reason Japanese people started wrapping fish in rice is because it was a way to preserve the fish. So funazushi is the earliest form of that, where they take a type of goldfish and they wrap the meat in rice and like cake it in salt, and it's kind of a way to preserve the fish so that they can travel with it long distances without it going bad. And it's kind of considered a delicacy. It's nasty, man. Don't eat it. It's so bad. Ah,
Okay. I'll make a note of that.
it's putrid sour. It's so. I think if you translate funazushi into English, the direct translation is something like putrefied fish.
Oh, gross. Okay.
Yeah. So don't do
Nasty.
it. Yeah.
Nasty. Well, now, so that was in Otsu that you ate that?
Exactly. And
Okay.
Otsu was an interesting city because it's not like I have no history there. I think I mentioned in the last podcast that I had studied abroad in Japan,
Hmm.
and it just so happens that where I was staying, my campus, was in Otsu.
Okay. So
Yes,
you're familiar with the area.
very much so. The surface area itself is kind of on the opposite side of the lake that I was living on, but at that particular area, the lake is very narrow. So what we did is we had some funazushi, and then sun was kind of going down, and we were like, you know what, we don't really want to be trying to catch new rides in the evening. Let's just crash here for the night and start up again tomorrow. But it was still only like maybe 6 p.m. or so. So we're like, let's, have a little bit of fun. And I said, let's go to Konbini. Let's grab a beer from the Konbini. Let's walk around. If it's cool, I would really love to go visit the dormitory that I used to live at. And there was a bar that we used to go to near that area. So we walked across the lake and drank a Konbini beer or two or three or four on the way. And then we went to my old dormitory and checked it out, and I didn't want to like try to break in or anything, so I just took a picture outside of it, and that was fine. We went to the old bar that I used to frequent, but they were out because of Golden Week. So
Okay.
we
Yeah.
got yeah, so we got another beer or two or three or four and walked back towards the kind of in the area of the service area, and then we tried to find some accommodation, which obviously we had not booked. So we just stayed in a internet cafe.
Okay.
Uh, Um, horrible. It was terrible, Kevin.
Ha.
Uh, we walk in and they're like, "Would you prefer smoking or non-smoking?" And we said non-smoking, and they were like, "Right, non-smoking's all booked up. We only have smoking." So we said
Ugh.
to ourselves, "Oh, right. I guess, I mean, we have no choice, so we'll stay on the smoking one." So they were like, okay, so internet cafes are actually really cool here. Like the floor is all matted and they'll give you like blankets and pillows. So it's it's way worse than a hostel or a hotel, of course, but like it's a million times better than sleeping on the street or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah. It's a cheap option, and a lot of people, a lot of people who are in a pinch or on a real tight budget do sleep in internet cafes because
Yeah.
you can rent like a little stall for for like 8 hours or so, and crawl in and just sleep, basically sleep in a chair.
Yeah, well, and ours it had chairs, but we didn't even have to use them because the ground was all matted. So we just moved the chairs out of the way and slept on the matted floor, and it was actually totally fine. Uh, and our internet cafe also had a shower,
Oh wow.
which you just had to pay 200 yen to use a towel, but we were kind of in a pinch for time. I don't know why it was a bad idea, but we didn't even use the shower. We just left the next day and went right back to the service area and grabbed another ride. Um, so
Yeah,
the
nice.
next day, yeah, we were stinky. The next day, we go up to the service area again. We wait for a very short amount of time. There was some students from a local university and their entire circle, kind of like a club,
Hmm.
decided that they wanted to go hitchhiking also to Toyama, which is where we were going. But, they couldn't fit all of them in one car, so they had to kind of like each catch a ride, either two people to a car or one person to a car, and
Mm.
nobody was paying them any attention. Then there were also two other people who were both foreigners and, very foreigner looking, blonde hair, blue eyes, but their kanji looked like crap, to be honest. Like, so you take one look at their kanji and you're like, these people don't speak Japanese. And truth be told, they didn't speak Japanese. So we had the edge on these people.
Hmm.
We got a ride in 20 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, a family in a van with two free seats in the back. Their daughter works as an English teacher in an eikaiwa, speaks fluent English. They gave us juice boxes, and they drove us all the way from Otsu to Toyama,
Oh
which
wow.
was, yeah, like a 5 hour ride.
Wow.
We also hit really bad traffic on that, but man, bless their souls, they were amazing people, so kind, and yeah.
Cool. Wow. So I mean, basically two rides, and you.
2 rides to Toyama. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. And you got. How was your Toyama experience, by the way?
Oh, it was great, man. So the actual city of Toyama is kind of whatevs. We don't really know because we didn't spend much time there. But we immediately departed to a city called um, Uozu. Oh no, 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 sorry, Namerikawa, because we had a internet cafe in mind that we wanted to visit. So, oh, also really funny was on the way in the car, I was on my smartphone trying to find some kind of accommodation that would be better than an internet cafe. Like internet cafe is last resort, that's fine. But we have a group in Jet called Jet Couch Surfers.
Okay.
So I posted on there trying to find people, and I was also posting on this couch surfing website trying to find people. The website didn't help me, but on the actual Facebook group, there was a guy that responded and said, "Hey, I have a place that you can stay. I have room for 2 people. I'm living in Toyama City, and I'm close to a bunch of sightseeing spots. So, why don't you come stay at my place?" So I
Hmm.
talked to my friend, and she's like, "Yeah, yeah, we can do that." But then I look on Google Maps, and it's like the place that we ultimately want to go to the next day is like an hour and a half away. So that's kind of inconvenient, number one. And then I asked the guy, like, well, what kind of accommodation do you have? Like, are we going to be sleeping on the floor of your bedroom or like, on a
Yeah. Yeah.
sofa or like, what is it? And he's like, I have an extra tatami room with 2 futons. And I was
Wow.
like, oh man, that's hard to pass up. So we were like, oh, okay, okay. But then I started to look a little deeper and I see, okay, number one, this person was not a native English speaker. You can tell by the way they're responding to my messages, and um, I think their Facebook profile said that they were educated in Hong Kong,
Okay.
and then their Facebook profile picture is a picture of them holding a Tommy gun, some kind of a fully automatic rifle, and kind of a flush expression with wide, crazy eyes. Okay,
Okay.
that's point number two. And point number three, it's like, okay, okay, if they're not a native English speaker, why are they in a jet couch surfing group? And why are
Ah.
they being so accommodating?
Okay.
And they're kind of far away from our ultimate goal. So I was like, you know what? I told my friend, you know what? This is just too many weird things here.
You just
Let's
had a
just
you had a bad feeling.
a bad feeling, exactly, a bad feeling.
Hmm.
And I just said, listen, the chances that we are going to get in trouble with this person are 0.0001. But that is enough for me to say, nah, let's not do it.
Yeah.
Let's not be crazy. So I messaged him and I'm like, hey man, terribly sorry, we're getting held up. We're not going to be getting into Toyama tonight. Sorry about that. We're not gonna be coming to your place. And you know what he responded? He's like, oh, that's too bad. I just went out and bought 2 brand new futons.
Whoa.
Which means, okay, I mean, I felt really bad because the guy just bought 2 brand new futons, but it also means that he originally lied about having 2 futons, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And
So that
was
was
trying to
weird.
kind of guilt you into coming. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, that sounds weird.
it's a little awkward, right?
Yeah, a bit creepy.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
creepy.
Okay, so you didn't stay there. Good.
No, we got into Toyamashi, we went straight to Namerikawa, and the other funny thing was, um, I was looking on the Couchsurfing website as well, and I met this one dude who said he had, a certain amount of room. Just on his profile, it said this, and I messaged him and I'm like, "Hey, coming into Toyama today. How's it going?" He's like, "Oh, hey, cool." And like, he had a picture of him and this famous guitarist named Nile Rodgers, who I'm also a big fan of. So I was like, "Hey, Nile Rodgers, super cool." And we were chatting, and I'm like, "Yeah, me and my friend are coming in today. Like, what's good?" And he was like, "Oh." Yeah, I'm sorry. Like, I have a perfect spot for you guys, but my mother is sick, so I have to go back to where my mom lives. Blah 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 blah. So we're like, "Ah, dang, no problem." So that we kind of covered that a long time ago. But we get into Toyama, we take the train over to Namerikawa, we get off, we walk into the first izakaya we see because we want to get some food and some booze. And who is there? This guy, this exact guy. And I know he looked at my face, and it's not like he's seeing hundreds of foreigners per day and
Yeah.
just like forgets what the average, what some random foreigner looks like. I'm sure he recognized my face because I recognized his face. And there was no comment about it. It was fine, but it's like, oh, so much for your mom. Anyways, so we had dinner there. We walked down to the ocean to try to see if we could see some lights, but there was nothing. And then we went and spent our first night in Toyama in the internet cafe.
Okay.
The next day, we wake up and we had quite a bit of plans. We wanted to go to the Firefly Squid Museum. So you go there and you pay your little entrance fee, and you can see the history and the biology of the squid. And they actually have a live show where you go into a room, they turn all the lights down, and they have like a net with some firefly squid in it, and they shake the net because when the squid get distressed is when they start to illuminate, right?
Okay, yeah.
And shake the squid, and you can see them light up, and everybody goes, "Oh, it's cool, it's cool." But I felt so bad because they also have a kitchen upstairs where they make firefly squid, like a bunch of dishes with firefly squid. So basically, the lifespan of these squid is be born in the ocean, get caught, go to this museum, get shaken until they're too weak to glow anymore, and as soon as people go like, they're getting kind of weak, sent up to the kitchen, fried up and eaten. Pretty brutal.
Well, yeah, 'tis life in nature.
Yeah,
When you're a
yeah,
critter, it's pretty usually pretty short, fast, and ends ugly.
yeah.
Uh,
No good. No good.
um, okay, so that no, so when did you had a chance to actually see the firefly squid in the ocean that evening or the next evening, something like that?
Oh yeah. So didn't it didn't go quite like that. We saw the firefly squid in the museum,
Hmm.
but we went that night back to the ocean and we didn't see anything. So
Mm.
we came back up towards the station a little bit, and we I think we went to the next station on after that because there was some other stuff that we wanted to see at the next station. Or perhaps it was the museum that was at the next station. Either way, we met some locals and we asked them what the deal was. Like, we kind of came here at pretty much the perfect time of year, but we couldn't see a single glowing squid last night. Like, what's going on? And the locals told us, oh, there haven't been glowing squid in years here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I guess like on the internet and everywhere else, they kind of perpetuate this idea that there are glowing squid because they want the tourism, but realistically,
Not so common.
overfishing and yeah, it just doesn't really happen
Yeah.
anymore. Yeah.
Too.
Although if you're a person that really wants to see these squid and you do have a little extra money to spend, there are these boat tours that you can take, which will take you out into the bay a little bit, and that will guarantee that you'll see the squid. But we didn't really want to spend the money. Obviously, we're on a bit of a tight budget, and yeah, we just skipped out on that.
Right on, right on. Okay, so you hitchhiked. Yeah, you guys had. It sounds like you guys had some good luck, but it sounds like a lot of that had to do with kind of your planning and the combination of a foreign guy who can speak some Japanese and a Japanese woman who is Japanese.
Mm.
Um, so okay, now I'm curious. Now, advice wise, Sam. I mean,
Mm.
just from what you know from your experience of hitchhiking, for those out there who are like in Canada, they're in the UK, they're in Sweden, wherever it may be, and they're like, I want to come to Japan and do some hitchhiking. I'm going to travel to Japan. I want to travel around in the hitchhiking way. For those people, what kind of advice, some basic points or basic advice would you give them?
Yeah, so the first point of advice I would give, which overrides every other advice that I'm going to give subsequently, is just do it. Like literally, just do it because it's going to be a story, it's going to be an adventure no matter what. With that being said, you can make your life a lot better by doing a few basic things. So just planning a few things. So planning where the heck you want to go is obviously going to be beneficial.
Hmm.
Planning what you want to do there is going to obviously be beneficial. If you have the chance, planning where you're going to stay there is going to be beneficial. obviously I just stayed exclusively at internet cafes the whole trip,
Mm-hmm.
and I did shower once at an onsen, which was amazing. It was my first onsen in my life, and it was also an outdoor onsen. So that was a whole,
Nice, nice.
yeah. That was amazing. It was up in the
I love onsens. Yeah.
it was up in the mountains of Toyama, and we took this bus that was like a rickety old diesel bus that drove us up to the mountains as the sun was setting. This brilliant orange blue coming in across the Bay of Toyama on the Sea of Japan, and and soaking in that water with not what I imagine to be not another foreign person within, a 100 mile radius,
Mm-hmm.
that was a great feeling. But so yeah, if you do plan a little bit of where you want to stay, that's going to save you some headache. The other thing is, okay, if you just don't speak any Japanese,
Mm-hmm.
like it can't be helped. What can you do, right?
Yeah.
But at the very least, what you can do is look up the name of where you're going and look up the kanji for that place and
Mm.
write the kanji on your sign of where you're going, and that'll help. The other thing is, of course, look up where your local service area or rest area is and go there. And I also think there's a lot to be said about image in Japan. So if you can, shave, wear slightly nicer, cleaner clothes, I think presenting yourself with a little bit more of a proper image when you go hiking is going to bode well for you.
Yeah, I know, I've been in Japan long enough to know that if you're scruffy looking,
Mm,
for Japanese people, that's gonna put them off. Make them wary. Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And
Oh, yep, continue.
yeah, I mean, yeah, you can be yourself and everything like that, but just be the cleanest, most presentable version of yourself that you can be, you
Yeah.
know?
No, for sure, for sure. I completely get what you're saying there. Um, Now, Sam, I'm wondering, do you have any future aspirations for another hitchhiking adventure? Or what is the
Uh,
ideal hitchhiking adventure for you in Japan?
yeah, so oh, man, I had plans. I had plans to go this Golden Week, and it would have been perfect. But the friend of mine that I went with last year is living in Australia now, and
Ah,
I asked another Japanese friend of mine, but she was kind of on board, and then she was like, "Oh, I have a friend coming out from Tokyo, so it's not going to work." So I wanted to go to Kurashiki, which is in Okayama. That was one idea, or Saga, which is a prefecture in
yeah, near Fukuoka, right?
yeah, Saga. It's like it's like Kumamoto's in the middle, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's down in Kyushu somewhere.
Kyoto, yeah.
But like I think if I want to hit one of those main cities that everybody back home's heard of, like Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka, whatever, I'll just take the main transportation lines. But if I want to go to one of those more obscure prefectures, like a Saga or a Toyama or a Ishikawa or something weird like that, that's probably when I'm going to utilize the hitchhiking. Um, and what might end up happening is I actually have tentative plans now to go to a city called Onomichi.
Okay. I'm not
And
I'm not familiar
yeah,
with that place.
it's in Fukuyama Prefecture. It's kind of near Hiroshima, and there's this bike trail that connects the city of Onomichi to the island of Shikoku,
Okay.
and you go through a bunch of different islands, and there's these little bridges that connect all the islands, and there's like a lot of bicycle rental places that are pretty
Ah,
affordable.
one of my new colleagues, he keeps ranting about he made that trip last year and he's
Mm,
just ranting. He's like, Kevin, you have to do it. He keeps
mm.
saying that to me because he knows I cycle commute.
Yet I've heard the only thing I've heard about it is absolute raving reviews about
Mm,
it. So I really want to do it, but like today is Tuesday.
yeah.
Um, I'm thinking of going with two other friends on Saturday morning, but the bus is going to leave here from 8, get us there at about 1, and then it's a full day of cycling for an intermediate cycler. So we'll get down to the other city, let's say at nighttime, and we're probably going to want to crash. But we need to get back to the original city by 6 something a.m. because that's the only bus that goes from there back to Kobe. For me personally, it wouldn't be a big deal because I also have Monday off work. But for my friends, they are not able to do it. So I'm thinking if they can't afford a Shinkansen, then the bus is out of the question in terms of plans. It just won't work time wise.
Yeah.
So either I will Shinkansen there alone and just do it because I have Monday off, or I will hitchhike over there and keep the spirit that I started last year alive.
Ooh, cool.
We'll see.
Cool. Well, you know what, Sam? As it gets later into the evening, I don't want to keep you much longer. This has been a lot of fun. I know the Just Japan podcast listeners are going to really enjoy your tale. So if people out there want to get a hold of you on social media, find you on social media, contact you on social media, how can they do that?
Right. So I think last time I was on here, I talked about Facebook, and that still holds true. If you want to look me up on Facebook and follow my account, I'd be happy. But this year with the PR Ambassador program, I realized it's really easy for them to promote me through Twitter. So I'm going to put a lot more effort into Twitter.
Nice.
Yeah, so please follow me on Twitter. My following is super meager. It's really embarrassing, actually. Please do that. And also, I have a YouTube account which is monetized, so I make super awesome pocket change
Oh,
on
yeah.
YouTube.
You must be rich.
So follow me on there too, please.
Okay, so I'll put those links in the show notes
Thank
at justjapanstuff.com, and I'll actually mention them right after this. I always have my little outro section, so go check him out on Twitter. Go check out his Facebook. Go check out his YouTube. But focus on that Twitter because we're gonna make Sam Twitter away. I'm not a PR ambassador this year, so I was like the most active Twitter guy last year, and I'm not there. I unfortunately wasn't able to make the commitment this year because, of course, you guys know I will be leaving in a few months, leaving Japan. But of course, also, like I've mentioned, that will not stop the podcast. The podcast will remain strong and continue. Yes. So 25 this year, by the way, PR ambassadors. Last year we had 19. So I'm hoping the PR ambassadors already been kicking into fine form and pumping out lots of content.
I've been doing some stuff. I think some of the people are like just dipping their toes in maybe, but yeah, I know you're gonna probably support us in the coming year, so I'm looking forward to it. And
Oh, absolutely.
yeah,
I plan to retweet the heck out of people, including yourself. So tweet, and I'll retweet you because
well,
I'm very
did you see
active.
my video? Did you see my video I uploaded recently?
No, I haven't.
Oh, dude. Oh, it's so good. It's the one with the Shoten guy around my place
Okay, is that
where I
on?
live.
Where can we find that?
Well, it's on my Twitter, it's also on my Facebook, and it's also on my YouTube channel. I
What
think
is
the best
what is your Twitter, by the way, offhand?
it is at hang on at Sam P Ramdani.
Okay.
So SAMPRAMDANI.
So go follow
Yeah,
that guy and
do it. Yeah.
follow that guy, and then I'll retweet. I'll go check that out as soon as we finish the interview, and then I'll retweet it.
Please,
Because that's what I do.
yeah.
All right, man. Well, Sam, thanks for joining us again, and look forward to having you on the podcast in the future.
My pleasure, absolutely. Thank you for letting me do this, Kevin. I know I kind of forced you into it, but
No,
thank
no,
you.
no. I was happy to because you were like, "Hey, Kevin, I'd like to come on the show again and talk about hitchhiking and some other topics too." But I'm like, "Cool, I'd love to have someone come on and talk about hitchhiking. I think it would be a fun topic. Just Japan every week, something different, right? And this is definitely
Absolutely.
something we have not talked about before. So, and I've never talked about luminescent squid. That's the term. Because
Yeah.
I googled it. I'm like looking at bioluminescent. When I spent a summer working in Summerside, Prince Edward Island, when I was in my early 20s, doing theater, and we used to party on this beach at night, and they had bioluminescent stuff in the water. I don't know what kind of it was, some kind of krill or something, but I can remember having the glowing waves wash in.
Wow. See,
Yeah,
it's
drunk on a beach in PEI on a summer evening with a bunch of like really cool people playing guitars and music, singing, and having like glowing waves coming in.
man,
Amazing.
that sounds like a life right there. Totally.
Yeah. No, I didn't have that every day, but had it a few days, and it was cool. Yeah. So Sam, thank you so much. All you guys, go to the show notes at justjapanstuff.com under number episode 158, and go check out all of his links and stuff, and go subscribe to all of his things.
Please.
Yeah, cool, man. And good luck this year as another year as a PR ambassador for the city of Kobe, and promote the heck out of this place because it is awesome.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right, cheers.
The number you have dialed has been changed. The new number is... Please note, the new number is...
All right, that was an awesome interview. Sam, thank you so much for joining us again on the Just Japan podcast. It was really awesome to have you. Now, of course, you guys can go and follow Sam on Twitter at Sam P. Ramdani. Sam P. Ramdani. That's SAMPRAMDANI. Link will be in the show notes at justjapanstuff.com. Also, go follow him on YouTube. He's got a YouTube channel. Right now, when I record this, the name of it's eluding me. We talked about it before. He just talked about it, so there you go. I'm recording this a while later. But go check out all the show notes for episode number 158 of the podcast at justjapanstuff.com. All the links will be there. But go follow this guy on Twitter. Go follow him on Instagram and on YouTube for some great stuff about Japan and about Kobe. All right, guys, I got to pimp it out. I got to promote it. Go check out my nature photography. Nature photography is something I'm very passionate about as a nature educator and nature lover, a guy who loves getting outside and seeing all those little things out there that most people miss. Go check out my relatively new Facebook page, facebook.com/Bugs of Asia. Bugs of Asia. Lots of cool nature stuff will be coming up there while I'm here in Japan, when I'm in China, when I come back to Japan on holidays and stuff like that. Because, hey, we're going to Japan this summer, we're going to China this summer to work, but we'll be back in Japan for a winter holiday, and then we'll be going back to China, and then summer break, we'll be coming back to Japan for a little bit, and then off to Canada for a while. So there won't be any bug photos on Bugs of Asia from Canada, but from all those other places. So go check that out. Go like the page. I think right now when I'm recording this, we're at 105 likes. Get in there, make it more. Even if you're not like into the buggity thing, I take some pretty nice pictures, guys. I think so. It's pretty sweet pictures. So even if you just like nice pictures of nature, it's not just bugs. There's also like plants and flowers and different things. I put some pictures of a lizard there recently that I saw. So go to Bugs of Asia over on Facebook. Like it. After this episode drops, I hope there's more than 105 likes. Yeah. So go do that. And while you're at that, of course, you can always find me on YouTube at Busan Kevin. You can email me at any time at justjapanpodcast@gmail.com. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at jlandkev, and on Facebook at Just Japan Stuff. All those links will be in the show notes at justjapanstuff.com. And of course, hey, the Just Japan podcast, we're all over the place. We're on all the podcatchers. Now, you guys can help the podcast grow. You can help us become bigger and better by sharing the podcast. Just share it on your Facebook, share it on your Twitter, your Instagram. If you like the podcast, retweet. When I tweet a new episode is out, retweet it, please. Share it with other people. When I post on the Facebook page that a new episode is out, just share it on the Facebook. And that will be really awesome. And tell people who who are interested in Japan about the Just Japan podcast. That will help us so much. And of course, remember, in last week's episode, I interviewed John Gunning from Inside Sport Japan, and we had a contest where you can win an actual print, a handprint from a sumo wrestler. You can win that. And all you have to do is follow Inside Sport Japan on social media, on their Twitter, on their Instagram, on their Facebook, and send me a screen cap of it. So go like their page, send me a screen cap over at justjapanpodcast@gmail.com or on Twitter or on Facebook. send me a screen cap and I'll put you in the draw. There's a bunch of you guys in there already. I'm going to give it one more week after this. There's a bunch of you guys in there already who sent me screen captures, who followed Inside Sport Japan. Thank you to all of you who did that. That's awesome. And I know more of you would like to do that too, to win an awesome, real, legit sumo wrestler handprint. It's amazing how big their hands are. They're freaking huge. Yeah, so there you go, guys. That is the Inside Sport Japan contest from last week's episode. Yeah, that does it for another week, folks. My name is Kevin O'Shea. I'm a Canadian. I live and work here in Kobe, Japan. And each and every week to you, I bring a podcast called the Just Japan Podcast. And I hope you guys like it because I make it for you. That's it. Wherever you are in the world, folks, I hope you're happy. I hope you're healthy. And I'll be talking to you real soon.
Bye.